everyone I know who's seriously using AI for business, they are exclusively paying for the most expensive models they can. This is almost 800 million tokens in and 24 million tokens out. This costs $4,000 in a month. We switched to the cost per run on the tool was at 50 cents, and now it's down to half a cent.
If you're negotiating for your life savings, everything's on the line, family legacy's on the line, which one of those models would you use? Michael Greenberg, welcome back. I am freaking stoked to learn AI from the Jedi Master himself. You are a serial entrepreneur. You have multiple businesses. You have a ghostwriting agency. You have an automation agency. You have, what am I missing here?
Podcast booking.
Podcast. There you go. Podcast booking. You're an AI guru, so I wanted to learn from you.
Thanks.
How are you using AI in your business? Here's my first question, though. What models do you use and for what?
Ooh, okay. So you asked me this 2 weeks ago. I'd be like, all I do all day is O3 Mini, and then occasionally, if I'm doing some creative writing, I'll use Claude with extended thinking, and O1 Pro when I need like a real thought partner. But Gemini 2.5 Pro very recently came out, and I love it. It's super fast. It's very smart. My team loves it. We are already starting to deploy it and replace it inside some of our research tools because it is just so much better with the large context windows.
Okay, can you help me understand? I don't fully understand. People have explained it to me, but I'm still an idiot.
Yeah.
Like when I go to ChatGPT, all right, and I ask it a question, there are more than one model you can choose from. You can choose 4.5, which is in beta. You can choose 4.0. You can choose 3.5. And then you can choose these ones that you named, O1, O1 Mini. There's probably some others that I'm like forgetting at the moment. I get the like 3.5, 4.0, 4.5, but like what do you use the O1 and the O1 Minis for? I don't understand this.
Ooh, yeah, good question. So the big difference here is one is a set called reasoning models, and that's going to be your O1s or 2.5 Pro with Gemini, extended thinking or thinking on Claude, and Grok has a thinking mode as well. Reasoning models spend some time going over the problem before they give you a solution. And so like if you're writing code or you're solving logic problems or you need reasoning, any sort of logical processing, those models are going to be much, much better. They're also way more expensive to run.
So if I was negotiating the sale of a business and I was like, here's the set of facts, here's what they offered me in the LOI, I want to counter back to them with X, Y, and Z, I would use O1. I wouldn't use necessarily 4.0 or 3.5.
Yeah, you would want to use a reasoning model, especially if it has math involved. So like when you heard about 6 months ago, people were like, oh, AI can't do math. And now they're like, AI is the best at math. The big difference is reasoning models, which started with O1 and O1 Pro and O1 Mini, has now gone on to O3. O4 is about to release. O4 Mini at least is about to release, and O3, the full version, is what they use with ChatGPT Deep Research now to produce those amazing results, as well as I think Operator, the thing that uses the computer for you.
Yep.
I think that also uses O3. So these are the models that are getting smart enough to really replace people in some of these specific tasks.
Okay, so you said O3 Mini is the best reasoning model.
O1 Pro is probably
O1
the best.
Pro. Okay. How do you know which one of these to use?
So I pay the $200 a month.
Same.
And I am only using O3 Mini High and O1 Pro. I do not use any of the other models.
Yeah, I'm going to share my screen really quick. If I'm here and I'm in ChatGPT, you open a new window and I come up here because this is where you actually select which model you're going to use. You do the drop down.
Yeah.
And I see all these models, right? GPT 4.0.
I skip over 4.0 only for if I'm doing image generation. I'll use 4.0.
Yeah, because it looks oh my gosh. The image generation's fantastic, by the way. Anyways.
I spend at least 30 minutes making images of my dog in like different costumes, portraits every day.
It's so funny. Your dog.
Yeah, I've got a Twitter post coming where it's like, here's my dog in 30 different portraits.
Oh my gosh. The Step Brothers, you and your dog in sweaters. Anyways.
Oh, I'm going to get that one now.
You need to. You need to.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so 4.0. What do you use 4.5 for?
I don't.
Okay, so 4.5 says, if you're listening to this, I'm hovering over 4.5. It says good for writing and exploring ideas. But then you said the reasoning models are actually better than 4.5. So why would I use 4.5 if I wanted to use better reasoning?
When they say writing and exploring ideas, they're talking about like creative, philosophical stuff more. You know, look, I'm a B2B guy. I'm in B2B.
Yeah.
I need logic and reason. I'm writing, most of my content is 1 or 2 steps away from a business case. I think, at least for me, and because I'm kind of a boring analytical guy in my head, the reasoning models really get me a lot better.
Okay. So creativity, where it's like, oh, I want to write a song, or I want these words to rhyme, or I want to figure out a way to incorporate this with this. That's where 4.5 is going to really work. But anything logic-based, contract negotiation, business model, like trying to figure out a business model,
Pretty much everything business related. Like, and I think that's what I see. And this might be the secret hack, is like everyone I know who's seriously using AI for business, for writing, all that stuff, they are exclusively paying for the most expensive models they can, and they're only using those. So there's a big difference between, like, if you're talking to 4.0, it's kind of dumb compared to 03 mini high, or just 03 mini.
There's 01, 03 mini, 03 mini high, 01 pro mode. Even just looking at these, I wouldn't know like, oh, this one is the best, because there's no like order to them in my mind.
01 pro, it does say best at reasoning. It does say that is the best.
Wow. Okay,
it also takes,
call me out like that, Michael, but okay.
It takes 2 to 3 minutes for it to respond in most cases.
Oh, okay. So these aren't quick queries. These are, because they're thinking through it. These are logical responses.
So 03 mini high, you're going to be under 30 seconds for most responses, which is why it's probably the one I use most often, because it's a lot smarter than 03 mini, but it doesn't take a lot longer to answer.
Interesting.
01 pro, though, it's slow.
What about 01?
01 is faster, but there's no reason to use 01 if you have 03 mini high.
Dude, I mean, we have an actual conversation queued up here of things that I thought were fascinating.
I could talk about these models like and just go back and forth all day.
No, this is amazing. This is why I have people on, because I'm trying to figure out how the freak do I use these things. I feel like a Neanderthal every time I go to ChatGPT and I'm like, okay, there's 7 different models. I'll just choose 4.0 again. Like,
so you want to see something scary?
Okay, while you're pulling that up, let me ask you this. Of the reasoning models that you named, so the O1s for whatever, ChatGPT, and then the Gemini model that you talked about, and then the Claude model that you talked about, I can't remember the names of them, but those are the 3 that I remember you mentioning. Which ones are the fastest?
So your fastest models are going to be Gemini, just across the board. Like Grok is pretty fast too, but in terms of like models that we will actually use in like production use cases where somebody needs a fast response that is intelligent, it's going to be Gemini 90% of the time.
If you're negotiating for your life savings, like everything's on the line, okay? Family legacy's on the line. Which one of those models would you use?
Can I pick a model that's not out yet that we know is coming in the next like month?
Okay, first pick a current model, and then you can tell me what the one coming is.
So I'm probably going to pick 2.5 Pro. Gemini 2.5 Pro. Yeah.
Wow. Why?
It's fast enough, and it has the context window where it can deal with a long negotiation.
So why is speed that important, though? Like, I would think you take as much time as you need, right?
So speed is less important. Context window is very important. Gemini models have context windows, so like they remember in the conversation 5 or 10 times more than other models.
Well, and I was just explaining this to somebody yesterday, so I'll tell you my dumb man's explanation of this. But
yeah,
if I was trying to buy a business, I would go to somebody who I knew was a business buying expert, and I would ask for their advice, right? But in order for them to give me specific advice, they'd have to learn a lot about me. They'd have to learn, like, what are my skill set? How much money do I have? What industries do I know and not know? What's my risk appetite, etc. And so I'd have to tell them all those things. And then once they get that information, whoop, then they give me the answer. So that person who has the experience of buying businesses, that's like all these underlying models. They just went and trained on generic data, and that's great.
Yeah.
The context that I gave him are these context windows that we talk about, right? And And these context windows vary. ChatGPT has like 120,000 tokens. Gemini goes to 1 million, and Claude is at, I think, 200,000. It's like, I think those are the right numbers. So yeah, to your point, it's like almost 10x of ChatGPT, and it's 5 times what Claude is. So what you're saying is, in a negotiation, you can give it a bunch of context that it can remember and then help you sort of craft your negotiation.
Yeah, and it's just about as smart as the smartest model available right now.
So one of the things I've heard, though, and then I'm going to ask you which one's coming out that you would use, is that just because it can accept a ton of context doesn't necessarily mean it knows how to synthesize it well enough to give you the best answers. So in some instances, it's like more context isn't necessarily better answers.
So that is both true and untrue.
Okay.
It is true in the sense that if you stuff it with more and more information, it will work worse because it has more information to sort through or to predict from. It is also true that it will remember more effectively. So if you are only using 100,000 tokens, that would be almost all of ChatGPT, but it would only be 1/10 of Gemini. And Gemini will have better recall over that information compared to ChatGPT.
Okay. Interesting. All right. So Gemini 2.5, tell me what's the model that's going to come out that you're like, oh, that's the one I would use.
I would use O3 Pro. O3 is the model from OpenAI, and then Pro mode is going to have it think really, really long. And that's going to make it way smarter than all the other models.
And when it's thinking really, really long, is the context window the same?
Yeah, but context window gets shorter as it thinks longer because like it's, like when you can only hold as so much.
Context window gets shorter as it thinks longer. Okay, so
like a reasoning model is going to have a shorter context length than a non-reasoning model in most cases. Gemini is kind of the exception to this because Google is the one who invented all of this technology.
Hey, I don't know if you remember this, but when we started this podcast, we entered into a social contract. I would spend time, energy, and money producing this podcast, interviewing these individuals, and giving you insights into how to build, buy, start, grow your business. And you would like, subscribe, and leave me 5-star review. Now, out of that, we both get to talk to really cool people and hear really cool insights. We both get a ton of value. But I just want to help you keep your word. So would you do me a favor? Will you go leave a 5-star review for me on Apple or Spotify? It would really help. And if you want, even share this with a friend.
Lest we all forget, Google invented the transformer, which is the core technology revolutionizing all of this AI.
I mean, Google invented AI and sort of motivated Elon Musk to say, hey, we need to have something to counter them, which is kind of where OpenAI came out of. For OpenAI, for example, is the context window going to stay the same for this new model?
It will probably get longer. So context window pretty consistently gets longer model generation to generation because we learn new techniques to optimize the model and to improve context.
What do you think it'll go to?
I expect it will probably not move a ton, honestly. I think they will probably release an update in the next 6 months where it is, we now have 1 million token context window.
Wow.
Because I think the papers are already out there and it's more an implementation thing for them, is my guess.
The papers, you mean like the white papers that theorize how they would actually make the context windows larger?
Yeah. And like competitors have done this, they have published on it. So it's not like it's a secret any longer.
Yeah, that has been one of the interesting things to see is like, Grok comes out with a really good image generation and you can actually edit the photo. And then 3 days later, OpenAI is like, check out 4.0, where we can now generate really, really good copy. Or DeepSeek comes out and then ChatGPT is like, check out Deep Research and Operator. It's pretty cool to, in real time, just see they've got this stuff. It's in a sandbox at the moment. But once somebody releases something close to it, they're like, okay, they tested it. All right, let's go. We can get out now.
Yeah, as long as we're not the first one out the door, we're not the one responsible for the havoc that this wreaks.
Yeah. So if you're going to be using these reasoning models, do you want to give it like a lot of context? I don't mean a lot of context in the sense of like, if it's a 120,000 token window, you want to give it 100,000 tokens. That's not what I mean. But, a lot of people use 4.0 or 4.5 and just ask it a question like, hey, how would I go about finding the best business to buy in Minnesota. And then it'll be a thought partner to like go back and forth, right? But that's not a lot of context. With the reasoning models, you probably don't want to ask it that type of question. You want to ask it something very detailed that you have a lot of information around that you can then glean answers through.
Yeah. So if I'm not like, let's say I am not any sort of AI expert and I don't write prompts as a paid professional, what am I going to do instead?
I don't know.
Well,
Tell me.
first, I am going to go and apply for an Anthropic API key. And so Anthropic is the company who makes Claude. And if you have an API key, and I think you get access to this just by applying, you can get access to their console. And I'm going to share my screen if that's all right.
I love prompts right now. I just wrote my newsletter this week about the 4 C's of prompting. And like, people don't realize how important it is to ask the right question. Otherwise, you're not going to get the right answer.
Let's make a prompt. So there's only really like 8 things that an LLM can do, maybe less, depending on how you count through them. Let's say that we want to like analyze some text. And so let's say, you know, I've been writing a book on some of this stuff. And so I often want like a writer's assistant. Analyze this chapter of a book, keeping in mind the rest of the book below, and then act as an expert writer's assistant and digital operations professional, because digital operations is my thing, with a background in consulting and project management. So I'm calling out like some skill sets, and I've got this thing open. You can see I want to generate a prompt, and then I'm going to say,
just for the Neanderthals out there like me, what he's doing is within any of these models, ChatGPT has this, Claude has this, there's an ability for them to link to other softwares. And that ability to link to other softwares is called an API key. And when you go and you're linking it to other softwares, you also need to tell OpenAI or Claude how it should interact, right? You're essentially writing a prompt. So what Michael's doing is he's writing the prompt. He's in this studio.
Yeah, so they call this a workbench. What I'm doing is there's an AI behind this thing, and I'm telling this AI, I want it to write a prompt that does this and acts like this. And then let's say we want, did I say analyze the chapter of this book? And then let's say provide detailed feedback in a SWOT format, because strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and is it threats?
Threats, yeah.
Is
tariffs. Sorry, no, it's tariffs. Tariffs.
Okay, that's the economic version. And then I'm going to say, yeah, I want to use this with thinking enabled. So I'm going to use this with reasoning models.
Okay.
And then I'm going to hit generate.
If I want to use this, how much does this cost a month?
This is free.
This is free.
Yeah, so what I'm showing you now is free. So it has now written this prompt like a professional prompt engineer.
What?
And so, okay, does this fit the 4 C's? Let's find out.
Again, people who are listening, he wrote a prompt that was probably 3 sentences.
Yeah, maybe like 2 or 3, yeah.
Okay, 2 or 3 sentences. This just spit out, I don't know, 2 pages worth of a prompt.
Yeah, this is...
Holy crap.
And so you can see here now,
Let's see it.
It says chapter, and it's using this little like code-like notation. So that way it knows where the chapter is. And then it says, okay, do SWOT. And we're going to go through, and it tells exactly what each piece of SWOT is in relation to like pinpoint the areas of the chapter. So it's rephrasing what SWOT should be for a book chapter instead. And then it's saying detailed feedback for each of the categories. Make sure you include, okay, so this thinks that it's a fiction book. So it's mentioned plot and character development, easy to update. And then format, it tells it exactly how to put the format together with recommendations. And then it says, don't include these code tags that I'm using to give you instructions at the end. And so this is good, but as we mentioned, like it thinks I'm writing a fiction book. That's not quite accurate.
Yeah, so you got to go edit it.
So we're going to hit continue, and it's going to open up this whole screen here. And so now we've got the whole thing. And if I wanted to, I can run the prompt and get back, and I can put a system prompt in or do any of that. But then I can also hit improve prompt.
Oh.
Let's take this and let's go back to the dashboard and then improve an existing prompt. And now we'll put this in and we'll say, okay, this is actually going to be used for nonfiction business books targeting SMB executives exclusively. So we need to make it punchier and more framework focused. All those guys have ADHD anyway. And now we'll see, for those of you listening, we see at the top, it says add a prompt template and describe what you'd like to improve. This is going to take 1 to 2 minutes and use some Claude credits. And so then we hit improve prompt, and now it's going through 6 steps. So first it's extracting examples. Now it's planning an initial draft, and we can see it thinking, putting together a flow chart, going through reasoning, and now it's writing a draft. It's improving.
This looks like a GPT that I would build in ChatGPT.
So like this is, a GPT is just a prompt. It's just a system level prompt in most cases.
You can build this within Claude and have your own, I don't know what other word to use for it.
You can
but
use this. So we use this same prompt tool across, we use the Claude Anthropic prompt generation tool for all of our stuff. So if we're writing a prompt for Gemini, for ChatGPT, for anything, this is probably the tool we are using to write that prompt.
Interesting.
Every one of my AI apprentices.
And then you're not actually publishing it. You're just copying it and then putting it into whichever model you're using.
Yeah. And so this now, like if we're building an AI tool, like a GPT or something, we would use these tools to create better prompts and to force structure to our inputs and outputs. So that way we can build something that is going to be repeatably effective. And so I think this is a better prompt. And it's a little, you can see it added emojis because I said punchy.
Dude, that is awesome. Okay, tell me again where I go find this.
So if you go to counsole, CONSOLE.anthropic.com, that's it. That's it. Okay. And so this is separate from the Claude.com like subscription.
But I got to apply for an API key and then I'll be able to access this.
Yeah, I think you get access as a result of applying. So like you create a developer account and then you have access to this thing. So that is like one of my favorite tools.
I love it.
You never write a prompt again. You just tell it what you want, does it for you.
Never write a prompt again. Dude, that's a tagline if I ever heard one. Freaking love it.
Yeah.
Where's the best place people come find you, Michael?
You can find me at digitalopsplaybook.com. That's my newsletter for all this sort of stuff. Can I show you a horror story as one last thing?
Sure. Yeah.
This is our Anthropic usage for March. This is almost 800 million tokens in.
Holy crap.
24 million tokens out. This costs like $4,000 in a month.
Is that a normal cost for you?
No. So we released some new tools. They got used way too much. And now we've refactored. We're now down to almost 0 usage. You can see when we turned on our new tools, it went to like near 0 because we switched to Gemini. So the cost per run on the tool was at 50 cents. And now it's down to like half a cent. So that was a massive drop.
Holy
crap. I woke up to accounting like...
Be careful of your usage.
Yeah, did you know you're spending $150 a day right now?
What is happening?
No. So that's, be wary if you deploy an AI tool. Yeah,
Okay. I love it.
that's our
Buyer
biggest
beware.
month in spend.
Appreciate you, Michael.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Hopefully you liked that episode. And if you've made it this far, you're either really committed or you're stuck doing yard work and you can't actually skip on your phone. So while I have you, the show is growing, but I have a favor to ask of you. Will you please help me grow the show? I want to reach more people. There's a couple things that you can do. Like and subscribe is the simplest thing. Obviously, you want to get notifications for when the next episode is coming out. But if you go the next step, will you leave me a review? 5-star on Spotify or Apple. What that does is it tells the algorithm that, oh, hey, this is a high value podcast because more people are leaving reviews for it, and it then pushes it out to more people. So that's why when people are like, will you like and subscribe and put a 5-star rating? It's not just to make themselves feel better. It's actually to get more exposure for the show. So if you do that for me, I would greatly appreciate it. And I'll see you next time.